Goth Anniversary sounds interesting. Is she not already a goth? I thought that was kind of her shtick. Alright, finally we have the best of 3 underway. In the bottom left is the red Zerg, it is SortOf. And in the top right as the blue Zerg we have Denver. I'm gonna go ahead and grab that water now. You're back. Alright. Okay, so ZvZ, very well matched players here. I would typically give like credit more so to Denver just because SortOf is like a little bit on and off, and of course he was in Korea for a long time, so you always had to consider the ping issues and just, you know, you couldn't really tell how much he was playing because his access to the usual tournaments wasn't quite there, having to deal with the ping, like. But honestly, right now I think they're just well matched. I do believe SortOf's back in Europe. Maybe for a short time or for a long time, I'm not sure. But that was the last thing I heard. And he's a pretty consistent player. I think when you don't have to worry about being up late hours or playing with that ping. Denver, his problem right now is consistency, actually. Like, as much as consistent is SortOf's game, as much as is his token, Mr. Mechanics, Denver's not so consistent. On one day, it seems like he's going to kind of rise the ranks of the likes of Clem and Raynor as one of those young guys in Europe who's our next, I was going to say the word bourgeois, but even that's kind of, I mean, speaking of Starcraft 2 history, with my video coming out, like, I think bourgeois is also a term that's really, people will not know what that means anymore. Anyways, we keep on seeing the sparks there for him to be one of the next best, but it never is actually lit. The sparks fly, you think your fire is going to be lit, and then it's just kind of there instead. Not to say that Denver is bad, but we see so much greatness potential in occasional online tournaments, and it doesn't really stick, right? We look at a bracket like this and we say Denver can absolutely make it to the round of 8, even believe he can make it to the round of 4. But if he's having a bad day, he may actually be sent out in the round of 16 or even the round of 32, depending on the seeding. Whereas we look at Hero Marine, Showtime, Clem. Who else joins these tournaments? Yeah, I mean, those are kind of the big ones, right? we expect them to get to the finals, semifinals. These two guys have the potential. We just aren't anticipating it. Just too bad. Both these guys are really cool. Denver and Clem are actually pretty good friends, both being young and French, I suppose. Good night, like creep humor. That's always annoying. Queen access from natural to third can be crucial when you're dealing with ling pressure. Not that I think either one of them is really looking forward to that. Yeah, both of them slapped on Evolution Chamber very closely timed to each other. And around that time, that is just for that +1 missile, not necessarily for a +1 melee. Ling's gonna get that full scout in the main base, see if there's a cheeky lair already started. Not gonna be the case here. Usually SortOf would also be doing the same thing. Roachwarren first. Okay, and kind of hidden. So SortOf, generally what you're gonna see if it's a macro game is exactly what Denver's doing, which is Evolution Chamber, lair, and then a Roachwarren, because I mean, with the Roachwarren, it's not that slow building of a structure. You obviously have to already have been done building it if you see roaches coming across the map. You know, that's still potentially a problem, which could be a very real problem in this game. But unlike that +1 missile you usually see started, which none of them are doing, by the way, because it's a fake. It is going to be +1 melee, actually. He's going to go into a Spire. Yeah, that Roachwarren usually isn't so much of an urgent need, especially if you are assuming you are reading your opponent and saying, okay, you're just going to go for the macro game as well. Well, in this game, SortOf's going to go for the hatchery all in, and Denver is going to go for, oh, he gets a scout, sees no wiggly jiggly on the Evolution Chamber. That's a bit of a tell there. Banelin's actually rolling to the natural, just not so much the drone damage as it is keeping Denver's mind off the potential for an all-in. He does start up a Roachwarren, probably just to have kept up appearances, But I think also maybe at the threat of this type of attack, unfortunately, this is really, it's still coming pretty swiftly here. He's not totally prepared for the attack. We already have a queen going down, but banelings do morph in the nick of time to at least hold off this initial pressure, but roaches are a-coming. SortOf is going to go ahead and drone up behind this and start a +1 missile as well, but he's also going to start that lair. He's actually saying this isn't going to work. That's a bit of a surprise. It's actually really surprising. I mean, the roach, good surround on the roaches. When you can do that, absolutely take the chance. But Denver was ill-equipped to deal with this. He did not have roach production even started, actually. He went for spine crawlers instead, waiting on that spire. And even if he had roaches on the way, it's always a question mark if they're all going to come at once, or just kind of one or two at a time, and then get obliterated by not just roaches, but usually also lings. But SortOf didn't really go for a whole lot of lings backing this up because he droned so much. If he had gone for all the lings that you would usually see as he winning this game right now, I don't know about that, but it's what I was expecting. Denver is going to hold his natural at the very least, while trying to do some damage to SortOf's third base to kind of make up for the lack of his own. Roaches do try and attack into the natural, at least see what's going down here. Denver's +1 missile has been done for a while, so they are ripping through these drones very convincingly. Queen goes down as well. SortOf actually broke into the main base, however, and that's exactly what Denver didn't want to have happen. Any amount of lings helping guard these spine crawlers in this wall, and those roaches do not make up to the main base. This is actually a big problem, but maybe one that Denver can at least equalize damage on. The queen goes down, drones go down, and oh my god, he's more than equalizing the drone kills. 18 drones killed for Denver. SortOf still working his way up into 10, maybe 11 before it's all said and done, but the mutas are starting to clean things up. In Denver, he is also rebuilding his third hatchery while this is going on. SortOf actually just acknowledges that his follow-up here is not going to be good enough, and he taps out. Denver takes the win. Not necessarily holding the hatchery based all in, but I mean, not the way we would usually say you would hold it, right? Like, he held it because he won, but not the usual way we see it held. Without BlizzCon this year, they announced anything about the World Finals. World Finals weren't at BlizzCon anyways this year. With the new EPT, ESL Pro Tour system, the World Finals were at Katowice. So what they were probably going to have happen, we never knew exactly what, but they wanted StarCraft at BlizzCon. What was probably going to happen was more of like a GSO versus the world type of show match thing. And that's not going to happen, and I'm kind of doubtful that they'll do anything with BlizzCon being canceled for StarCraft. I don't know. I mean, I could be totally wrong about that, so I don't want to doom and gloom, you know. Especially because it's not really doom and gloom. At this point, you know, we've kind of acknowledged that Blizzard doesn't love us anymore, but we're okay because we're like a financially stable adult with an apartment and a good job. You know what I mean? So, if Blizzard is like, you know what, we're not going to bother, this is already too much shit to worry about, let's just focus on Overwatch and whatever was going to happen for them, which is usually their World Cup, then I'm like, okay, whatever makes sense. The only reason I believe that StarCraft happens directly with Blizzard funding, directly with Blizzard oversight, you know, directly with Blizzard people making the tournament, the only reason I think that ever happens is because people who are left in the StarCraft 2 department are just very passionate, hardworking people. And there are still people maybe higher up that still love StarCraft at Blizzard, but the people like, you know, Mike Morheim, for instance, who would literally say, I don't care what the numbers say, put StarCraft 2 in the arena. Well, they're no longer there. Didn't see the GG there. It was a bit tough, but the thing is that SortOf was already going to have a tough time playing defensively against the muta player. Since his lair was late, since his queen count wasn't that high. He could have made Spore Crawlers, you know, more than you would want, but he could have made Spore Crawlers. He could have gotten a queen count to protect his transition into infestors, but the pacing at which he could defend the mutas was going to be worse than the pacing at which Denver could abuse the mutas. You know what I mean? And then, while it maybe isn't the worst thing in the world, when you lose 20 drones, on top of that, you are now being so outpaced by the muta player, who's going to control the map and expand and constantly harass you. So, yeah. It's the best, I think, the most simplistic way I can explain that. Alright, on Everdream, anyone gonna cheese? Anyone cheese? Cheese? No? Okay. Top right, we have the Red Zerg SortOf. Bottom left, we have Denver. Everdream, not just being one of the shortest map pool, or shortest distances in the map pool. Zen through the mineral patches aside, I think. But also just being so common for early pools. Like, you're up one as Denver, Everdream pops up. Hey, let's do this. It still works. We've seen it plenty of times in the TSL. We've seen a couple of different responses against an early pool, though, which some of them seem more effective than others, if properly executed, but...
Twitch Prime sub received. Thank you for appeasing the Overmind.
I've been so traumatized by all the cheeses that happened, I'm now just anticipating cheese at every turn. Thank you very much, Abladix. For the Twitch Prime sub. Appreciate that. Hope you enjoy your new emotes. And the channel's new emotes. We got 4 new emotes. I mean, one's a combo emote, so... if you want to consider it 4 new or 3 more emotes, that's on you, I guess. But, yeah. Yeah. So, you know, it's a cool little thing here. If you were watching TSL, you might have seen a laser try and do one of the defenses against an early pool, which it didn't work out. We were talking about it with Pig. Pig actually went into the unit tester and tried to make the wall that we saw a laser attempt. So the spawning pool goes here, right? It's not just to see if maybe like a spine crawler is over here being built. Obviously the drone would eventually see it, but this would see it maybe faster. No, it's more because you want to start a wall. It's evolution chamber, hatchery cancel, evolution chamber in the middle. You need just a little bit of extra creep spread in the middle that a hatchery cancel gives you, and then another evolution chamber. Or no, sorry, another hatchery, my bad. So it's so complicated. It sounds like it is just absolutely not worth it. But if it was a 12 pool drone pool, the most all-in thing you can do, then it is worth it, because you cancel the hatch, Evo, hatch cancel, Evo, hatch. And you have a full wall off. That builds at a pretty steady pace, too. Despite some okay surface area for the lings and drones. So anyways, I just thought that was interesting. Something I recently learned, and I wanted to educate the masses on. Because I know everyone was like, what was the laser doing? Why is he so crazy? It's still a pretty crazy response, just because you have to be very precise on your micro. And it's a short map, so you don't have much time to... you don't have much time to make mistakes. And the wall is difficult to accomplish. But, yeah. Now we know knowledge is power. Alright, so we got Lings versus Lings, Baneliness versus Baneliness. Both of them were doing tricky things last game with the evolution chamber. Just really key on not believing what you see, man. Our eyes can deceive us. Denver comes out on top with the faster Spire. Do you try that again on such a short map? I severely doubt it. I mean, Eternal Empire is one of the largest maps that we have, even though its actual rush distance is not so different from, like, Simulacrum or Nitro or something like that. Like, it's still big, and you still feel comfortable, more comfortable than on a map like Zen or Everdream. The French casters weren't here to cheer on the French player immediately. There. Oh no, sort of with an initial miss micro there. He does have another Baneling on the way, but against the 2 Banelings of Denver, this is actually a little bit scary. That Queen exactly wants to focus fire on the Baneling before she dies. She helps grab one, the other Queen grabs the other, and she barely survives. Sort of with some last-second micros, able to save at least one of the Queens, but having lost one is already kind of a good attack there from Denver. I mean, he's not doing much to do this attack, although 4 Banelings are about to be popped. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. That's not good. Oh, okay, good, like, second attempt at a split there to at least save 1 Baneling. That's actually pretty sick. Denver does need at least 1 Baneling to try and hold against SortOf's counter. When you have Lings, you have to try and use the Lings, even though you didn't plan on building Lings in the first place, and, you know, ZvZ things. But that Baneling did help. It didn't actually save the Queen, so a Queen for a Queen so far. Roachborn to Roachborn, +1 missile to +1 Carapace. Sort of going to go for another hatchery all in, but this time with a Carapace upgrade. Whereas Denver is actually going for the... Well, he actually might be going for a hatchery all in as well, funnily enough. No, okay, there's the lair. Alright. I'm like, well, that would be just too funny. Like, what happens there? Okay, 3rd hatchery just went down. That is so much more important. I did not think that was going to happen, but I guess sort of also didn't think Denver was going to make as many Lings as he did. He did not have any defensive Banelings. He emergency walls as he realizes how many Lings are being sent his way, and even the drones providing a little bit of extra wall, but more so because they couldn't get past it, so they just decided to sacrifice their lives. That's all they could do. 6 drones go down, Evolution Chamber is cancelled, but 3rd base down, well, sort of is already going to all in, so you definitely have to pull the trigger. +1 Carapace, unfortunately, is just not going to finish that fast. +1 missile's already done. Now, you know, of course, this changes the dynamic of the Lings to the Roaches, and then we do have Carapace being on both Roaches and Lings, for sort of, compared to Denver's +1 missile only being on his Roaches, right? Those are the change-ups here. But Carapace is slightly more expensive. And I'm not sure if Denver has actually been caught so off guard here. His Lings were unable to buy any time, though. Well, okay, hold on. This is interesting. Okay, so Lings are holding up sort of Lings from reinforcing, so they're kind of doing something here in a very, very weird way. But Denver, where are your Roaches? They're popping out one at a time on the right side, so they're getting taken out one at a time. Good last-second split against the Banelings, but unfortunately also losing drones to the top left. 11 drones so far, but don't forget that he's still up in workers. He's up 10 workers, actually. And he had that 3rd hatchery. Still has that 3rd hatchery. I think he's fine. Jumps on top of the Ravagers. The Lings have finally been set free. They do have that +1 Carapace, though, and they do get a nice surround, but it would have been even nicer if the Ravagers were done and also causing Corrosive Bios to fall from the sky. The Link surround is really looking quite good. As a couple Roaches go down, there's not very many left over to help combat this flood. 8 Roaches on the way. Maybe Denver should have held up on that Roach speed if it meant affording 5 or 6 more Roaches. This actually is so damn close. Sort of is just spamming the Ling button here. He's trying to get his 3rd base back up as well, just simply because he has minerals. He doesn't have enough larva to not just go ahead and bank money here. So this is turning into one of those situations that could actually become no one wins, but also no one loses. We actually go into a macro game, and that would just be so bizarre. I think it's what's going to happen. Sort of is starting to run out of those Lings and providing excellent buffer for his Roaches. But he's also run out of Roaches, and Link can only ever do so much since Denver is still producing Roaches of his own. What an interesting outcome from these engagements. 2 more drones go down, but sort of still lower in the workers. I thought maybe he was going to stop building at least the Roaches. I'm actually really surprised to see him continue building Roaches. The Lings, sure, because they are the fastest unit here, right? They can kind of help a snowball, and if they don't help the snowball, they can at least try and race into the main of the natural, which you just tried to do. But slow Roaches? I think those should have been drones faster. If he got drones faster, they're timed with the 3rd hatch finishing, and then he could be making the Roaches. As it is, he has been making Roaches to defend against this counter, but he's still down 6 workers. So it's just one of those, like, obviously one thing was safer, but I'm saying the risk might have been worth it to get those drones out first. It might have, It might not have mattered. It might just be that whether he drones first or builds army first, he simply just doesn't have enough to actually play out the macro game. Denver's roach speed finished up, so his attack hit much faster than maybe SortOf was anticipating. But enough roaches, a couple of queens, and a handful of lings were able to set that back. SortOf is about to have an upgrade lead. I guess that's actually really what we're talking about. +1 is going to finish literally right this second, with his lings still upgraded as well. A couple of drones go down on the right side a little bit awkwardly, but roaches will be cleaned up. Looking more on this left side to see if he can do anything. The roach speed here from Denver means he can reinforce the position if he thinks he can, that he should. Oh my god, good surround there from the lings. Actually stop the roaches from immediately evacuating and cause the death of the Ravager, which is always that high priority target. Crazy game. Good defense by SortOf, but now he's down 16 workers. And the only thing he has going for him is the upgrade advantage, which, he went for +1 missile, probably thinking he could play a roach game, but since the attack did what it did, stopped him from ever getting that drone count up, he's actually going to try and swap into melee with a Spire. I mean, it might just be the only call I can really make to try and win this game. If you're roaches, when you're down in supply, it gets so much easier for Denver to size up, you know? He says, oh, you have an upgrade lead? Well, I have 25 more roaches than you, so I'm still going to win. You know, it's a much easier game for Denver to win than kind of a pesky Spire swap. Which I'm not sure. Yeah, I didn't actually scout. Good to SortOf get both queens on top of that Overseer. This could be... This is... Yeah, okay, I believe it. I believe in SortOf. I believe it, man. The Spire might be able to turn things around here. But he's going to have to... I mean, yeah, he's already starting to build drones, but the first thing he really has to do after getting his initial mutas is drone. But first the mutas, especially since Denver can still come across the map. 3 mutas is not super convincing. Usually you want to be more like 7 or 8. He's going to grab +1 missile as well. He probably will be forced to dedicate on top of the mutas for an extended period of time, because swapping back into roaches just simply won't work. Good contaminate on that +1 melee. The Overseer, I believe, right, Denver has already seen the 1-1 is finish up on the roaches. That happened since back when his units were trying to escape. But that could be +2 missile, right? Well, now he knows it's for... Now he probably figures out that it's for lings, and, well, the mutas have now revealed themselves as well. Denver has a sizable roach army, up 30 supply, but going from your base to your opponent's base is not something you would advise against mutas, even if you have a pretty substantial roach count. Especially because they can go from building drones to going, oh shit, and building roaches to help defend and help the mutas do as much damage as possible with their glaive worms. So Denver is forced to sit back for a little while here. It'd be a risk to do an attack, but he also does have that choice. He's going to go ahead and take it. The mutas actually combated the queens, which I don't think was a very good idea. They weren't going to convincingly win that. Well, Denver's like, okay, just kidding. Okay, well... Oh, okay. I see why he did that. I see why he did it. This was Squirt Brawler. You know, in my, I really just expected a Squirt Brawler to be there. Denver is actually trying to get the mutas off his back, because even though those numbers are not very high, they were starting to take out the queens, and there were no Squirt Brawlers from Denver, so he actually has to get the monkey off his back here and just go for the attack. He instantly demolishes the Roach Warren, which not only lets the roaches through into the natural and into the main, but also stops SortOf from making any emergency roaches that maybe could have helped here. But he's definitely not thinking about that. It's all about the Spire, which, by the way, just got sniped. Those little last 4 meters are going to see. Drones are going down on both sides, although as SortOf actually had a little pack of units that Denver couldn't see. Denver didn't have an overload over there, and hell, mutas would have taken care of it anyways. So he doesn't know about this push. They're both losing drones around the same time, but who is actually going to lose more production? Who's going to lose more hatcheries here? So many roaches are still left over. SortOf actually goes and defends his 3rd hatch, as opposed to trying to clean up the mass amount of roaches in the main base, which are going to get the lair. They've already got this hatchery. They're not going to be able to stop the typical hooks from finishing, but I'm not sure that's really an important feature here. How many banelings can you realistically get? Especially because the spawning pool just died. So whatever Ling SortOf has, that's the only thing he's going to have for a while. He is taking a base to the bottom right, anticipating a full-on base race, which I do really, really like. That is a smart call to make when things are getting really weird. The roaches have taken out the main base of Denver, but Denver still has 3 more hatcheries, whereas SortOf is down to 2 hatcheries, and one of them is extremely low. With no lair, he also is going to start losing out on creep spread, although it looks like this is covered by creep tumors, so not such a big problem. He still doesn't have a spawning pool. He lost his spire. His technology is limited to banelings from the lings he already has. That's literally all he can make. And drones, of course. At this point, Denver has fixed his earlier mistake by not having a bunch of spore crawlers, and now is, I mean, kind of overmade spore crawlers, but that is absolutely the right thing to do. Better overmake than undermake. Totally. The mutas are the only thing that sort of has to try and win this game, but they cannot combat 5 spore crawlers. The roaches of SortOf are trying to take down the spore crawlers for the mutas, but unfortunately Denver's roaches still and high enough in numbers to take care of the ground army, and there's only so much SortOf could have done about that. In fact, there's still roaches over to the right side, which sniped that 3rd hatchery. We now have SortOf down to 1 single hatchery and a Mutadream. He's got 16 mutas with +1 against the 12 roaches that do have a Carapace upgrade. So it just increases how difficult it is to tear these guys down, but you know, when they're in smaller numbers, it's easy enough. And we're no longer talking about a game where Denver could ever get to high numbers of roaches. This is not a game where he just says, you know what, I'll make 30 and you can't kill them fast enough. Like, that's not gonna happen. Not anytime soon, anyways. This is still definitely a game either player can win. Yeah, one of the reasons the roaches have been sneaky is that Burrow did end up finishing, which I saw finish and just thought, like, there's no way this would, like, be anything impactful, but it certainly could be. You know, obviously, you know, if only you could burrow onto a trampoline and eject the roaches to hit the mutas, then Burrow would be effective against this composition. But simply as a way to save his roaches as they go around looking for bases, that's still good, because a lair is dead. Lair is unavailable for SortOf. He cannot make an Overseer. He has one, which is lucky for him, but it is a slow-moving Overseer. The roaches not only doing some damage to the drone line, these are SortOf's only drones, they also just scouted where the hatchery is. And that is unsettling for SortOf. It's not like bad news, okay, you're dead, it's been found out, man, because Denver doesn't have an army to combat the mutas. But it is unsettling. Keeping Denver in the dark is always going to be better for SortOf, who, I mean, he's a bit more on the ropes here. He's more on the back foot, but also he's the muta player, and he's supposed to be able to keep the other guy in the dark. SortOf actually just taps out. Cleaning up the roaches, he realizes, you know, I'm not doing any damage to Denver's economy. I know he still has 3 bases up, and I can't kill that base either. Can't kill either one of those bases. So he just taps out.